Okay. Now, how do I get that one down? Oh no, it was working before. What did I do?
Oh yeah. It's okay, but I like when you draw.
Start going sharing that. Okay, now how do I get you back up there? Is it that I have to move it in there? There we go. Got it. Okay. So it's an extension. Do you have two monitors on your where you at your desk?
Yes.
So it's the same thing. So you would just like go get it. Then you can just go like this to bring it back, and then to show the students. I mean, the students here, you can just leave the LinkedIn up the whole time. That's not a big deal.
Yeah, because the whole thing is, I'm going to be using this stuff,
Yeah.
so I'm going to have to be like looking this way.
Oh, then let's change that.
Can we do a duplicate instead?
Yes, I think that's a great idea. There we go. It's duplicated. Do you want to wait a few more minutes, or do you want to start because it's 11?
You can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
So I have to be like sitting for them to see me. So like, what is this broadcast exactly? In my voice?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's just it. Yep.
Okay.
So you're just,
I can jump up and down.
Yeah.
Go around.
yeah. So they're just going to be seeing your screen.
That's
I wish,
totally cool.
probably should have put the microphone on.
We can get started.
It's all yours.
Okay, cool.
And then, I mean, you can just leave it up, because when a student comes in, they come in like the presentation's in the middle. It's all right.
Okay.
If you forget, it's all right. No big deal.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Meredith Tornabene, and I am the career counselor down in the School of Information Studies. So today, what I'm hoping to do is kind of walk you through some things that you definitely need to know about profiles, and then beyond that, like how do you actually use LinkedIn beyond just thinking of it as a place to have your online resume, okay? And since we're somewhat of a smaller group, if you can like feel free to move up, so I'm not and what I'm really going to encourage you to do is ask questions. This can be more like a conversation than me just being like da 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 da. Cool? It's Friday morning. Let's get excited. Here we go. Okay. So starting with some things about your profile. We're going to kind of just go into this and start at the top and work our way down. So if we start at the absolute top, one of the things that has changed somewhat recently is that now you get to kind of everyone, no matter if you have the free version, the premium version, everyone can have this banner image at the top. And you know this, the more that there's kind of rich media, the more photos that there are, the more engaging your profile becomes, right? This is what makes it different than just a black and white resume. So use this space. It depends on, you can pick whatever photo you want. I'm kind of like, oh, look at my unique little pencil. But for you guys, what I might suggest as an option If you go to collage.syr.edu, this is all of the professional photography that has happened at Syracuse University, and you can search for panoramic photos, and then you could have an image of Syracuse University, right? If you can't think of what's an image that represents me, at this point, an image of SU is perfect. Make sense? So that's where you can find one, so don't feel like you gotta run around and take pictures with your phone. So that's the that top image. The next piece that I think is really important is that photo. LinkedIn has found that your profile is 7 times more likely to be looked at if it has a photo. And the beauty of today is, if that picture right now is a selfie or is some weird picture that's like cropped out, you cropped out your friend, you can just go down the hall and get a professional photo taken. That's what we're looking for. Something, and again, I encourage you, smile, right? We want this picture of you to be inviting, to maybe show, and it can show a little bit of personality. And as I'm saying that, realize that things are going to change depending on the sorts of industries you want to go in. If you are going into photography, or if you are going into more of a creative discipline, your entire profile might be able to be more creative. If you're going into an industry that tends to be more conservative, maybe you're going into financial services, maybe you're going into government, we're probably going to have a little bit more of a professional tone. Does that make sense? But don't think like, oh, I have to be stuffy. That's what professionalism is. But definitely smile. Sometimes I see people like kind of mean mugging it in their picture, and I'm like, no, we want them to want to hire you. So look like someone that's excited to go to work every day. Okay. I think the most important other part is this headline that goes underneath your name. When a recruiter does a search, the only results that they see back are a picture, your name, and whatever your headline is. Then they have to click in to see the rest of your profile. So your headline, you can write whatever you want, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a job title, unless you want it to be, right? Maybe you did a great internship and you want to brag about that, but maybe we kind of change it and talk a little bit about what your goals are, who you are, personality. So see, I don't tell you what my job title is, I tell you what I do. So for example, you might want to say something like aspiring professional photographer, aspiring whatever the dream job is, you can say that. Or if you want to kind of have like these little I've seen other people kind of talk about like if they're in marketing, that they're like an idea man and this and that, and right, I mean, we don't want to go too crazy, right? It's not like I'm a marketing ninja, but just know you get to do this. And at the very least, try not to just have something super generic like Syracuse University student. At least tell me your major, right? Those sorts of things at least might give me a sense of who you are a little bit more. But if you can include interests, that's great. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that? And you can look around. That's the beauty of LinkedIn too, is that like it's made for you to do casual stalking. So if you're curious about what other people are writing, take a look at that, get inspired by that, and then adapt it for yourself. Okay, then as we move down, you can say what industry you're in. So clearly I work at a university, I'm in higher education. You want to pick an industry you think you want to go into. And if I have any freshmen here who are like, I have no earthly idea, and that's okay. That is what freshman year is for. And even sometimes sophomore year, and it keeps going. Pick something, even if you pick higher at first, or you pick something that you're remotely considering, that's fine. And things will change over time. Okay, so that's that most important part right at the top, what everybody sees. Probably the next most important thing, beyond the photo and the headline, is that we customize your URL. When you are first assigned a LinkedIn profile, it is a bunch of letters and number combination, very, very long. You cannot put that on a resume. You cannot put that on a business card. So what you need to do is customize it. So when you go into the edit function, a little pencil will come up here and will allow you to customize this. And what you're looking to do ideally is just put your full name. Now, there may be many of you who have other full names like repeated across the world. So you may have to do a combination with your middle name or whatever, but we're just trying to do something that clearly is you. And the more that it includes, has your name in it, that's what helps drive Google searches to your LinkedIn profile. Does that make sense? So customize your URL. Another thing that I will just kind of show. As you go down, the summary. This is difficult, but it's very important. The summary is where you can talk to your audience, right? So for you, your audience might be recruiters or potential hiring managers at this point in your career. At some point, it may turn into being clients. So whomever you're trying, if you're thinking in your head, who are you hoping looks at your LinkedIn profile? Write to them, okay? And I'm going to suggest write in the first person. It's sort of creepy when someone's like, Meredith Tornabene enjoys doing blah, 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 blah. Like, no, like talk like you would talk to that recruiter, to that person. So I tend to believe a first person is better than talking about yourself in the third person, right? You're trying to come across as approachable. So this is where you can address, particularly if you're trying and debating between different career fields, you can say, you know, I'm currently thinking about pursuing careers in either this or that, or I'm passionate about this, and these things. And that way, even if you're kind of going for two separate things, whomever is looking at your profile gets a sense of who you are. Hopefully, from writing your cover letters, you've got some ideas of some things that you can highlight here. Okay, so for example, I just talk a little bit about kind of what do I do as a career counselor. And you can just talk about where you see yourself going, what have you done, why are you passionate about those things. And the other thing I'll say is you can include some personal information too, right? A little bit of personality. Like if you're on the table tennis team, please tell me about that. That's interesting. So you can include a little bit about yourself. Because remember, they're hiring a person, right? And this is your chance. Your resume doesn't necessarily, not all the time, can show a ton of personality. This is where you can put a little bit of it there. Kind of it can be set the professional stage, and then at the end you can say, outside of that, I enjoy yoga, this, that, whatever is kind of makes you, you. Okay, any questions at this point? Thoughts? Yes. So we'll go in the back and then go ahead.
Is there a certain, is there a certain length you should try to?
Good question. Is there a certain length? And so I tend to think the briefer, the better. And if it's going to be a little longer, that those paragraphs are short. Think of yourself. If you see a big block of text on a website, don't you usually just think the one swipe rule? If it takes me more than one swipe to read it, I'm probably not reading it. So that's what you want to do. So if you can do it quickly, that is ideal. So yeah, don't think of this as like this has to be this long story. It can be this kind of snapshot, and that's awesome. Yes, you had a question too.
Just regarding URL of the LinkedIn page.
Yes.
So let's suppose my name is Karma Kohli. That's it. I don't have a middle name or anything.
Okay.
So there will be user.
There will be a million other people.
What do you think I can add to that?
Whether you want to, like, even in that case, even if we have to go on, if you want to add like an you, if you want to add a number, if you want to add anything, that can kind of make that a little bit different. That's fine. Any other questions? Okay, so the next thing that you can do in this area is add media. And like I said before, the other thing that they are noticing in terms of what profiles get looked at and which profiles get looked at for longer amounts of time are those that include some sort of rich media. So whether we're including a photo, a video, whatever it might be, that's great. So for example, again, at this point, maybe you want to include a video from Syracuse University, or maybe your home college has a video that explains, like, this is what's going on at the College of Engineering and Computer Science, aren't we super awesome? Wherever you are, that's something that you can include. Or maybe you did a project or something that you're really proud of, or you have a quick presentation, whatever it is, that could be included in the summary too. So think about that. And if you are, if you're like a graphic designer, this is where you can kind of have something about your personal brand and who you are and all of that. Make sense? Okay, and then we go into the variety of different experiences and things that you can include on your LinkedIn profile. I would say, you can talk about any sort of experience that you want, and for some of you, you're going to have more professional experience than others, depending just on circumstance and also what year you are. So remembering too that LinkedIn allows you to have different sorts of sections. So maybe you have more of a volunteering experience section, right? So don't feel limited, and remembering too that you get to drag and drop those in the order that you believe that they are most relevant. So if you haven't done a ton right now and you actually feel like what you want people to really focus on is my education or the courses I've taken, maybe that goes up top. But if you have some really relevant experience, we're going to want that to shine first. Because again, following the idea that most of the time people are just scrolling through, they're going to go top to bottom. So you are the one that says, this is what I think most people are going to be interested in order, basically. Okay, does that make sense? So you can list courses, you can list honors and awards, you can list all of these different sections that they've included, but don't feel like you have to have all. I mean, look at this. It goes on and on and on. You don't have to have all of them. You have to have the ones that make sense for you. But you'll see here, like, I've added some, I did a webinar, so I added that. And a lot of you have done presentations. You have done even, created quick, short, maybe for class, a project that will really be relevant to what you're going for, and you can include that. And even links to websites, photos, etc. So don't hesitate to add those things. And for those of you that are doing class projects, consider kind of calling those out. And you can actually tag the people that are in your group project with you. And this is a visual representation of your ability to work on a team. So many times in job descriptions, the ability to work independently and also on a team. So you want to make it clear, because for many of you, your majors are requiring you to be in group projects constantly. So for the ones you want to highlight, this can be another way to just show, look, I work on teams, varying sizes, varying different types of people that I've had to work with. And so it goes from you saying that you can do it to you showing that you've done it before. That's what we're trying to do. Show, don't tell. Okay. And so as we scroll along, people freak out about the skills and endorsements piece. And the truth is, like, many people understand right now that you are a college student or a graduate student, that there might not be a chance for you to really demonstrate all these skills and for people to endorse you for them, but I still encourage you, skills that you have, put out there And one of the ways that you can increase the amount of endorsements you get is by giving them to other people. So if you're in a project with someone and they came up with like the best PowerPoint you had ever seen, go on their profile and endorse them for that. Obviously, they get notified, and half the time they're like, oh, let me endorse her, or let me endorse him for something. And that's one of the ways that you can do it. And you can also rearrange these. So if you want something that is like a smaller number to be up top, then you can do that. So you kind of say what you want to lead with. And some of these, like, you know, and people recognize, like, half the time it's like your mom endorsing you for stuff, and you're like, Mom, you have no idea if I'm good at this. But what LinkedIn believes is at the end of the day, the cream of the crop rises to the top. So over time, the things you really are good at are going to be endorsed consistently. And then the other things, not so much. Okay. So do not freak out about that at all. Again, your education section, you can add the activities that you were in, the descriptions, all of that stuff, which can be really good, especially for you right now. Any honors and awards, organizations that you are in. And I'll quickly mention groups. First and foremost, everyone in this room should be a part of CUSE Connect. CUSE Connect looks like this one. CUSE Connect is Syracuse University's alumni and student group. So when an alumnus joins that group, it's basically saying, I'm doing this because I'm willing to connect with another alum and current students. Okay, so that can be a good thing because it allows you to potentially look and search and reach out to those people and have a good feeling that they may get back to you because of that. Okay, so following that group is important, and also that's where sometimes an alum will announce that they're hiring for a job and they want to hire SU students. They'll put it, and there's a jobs board in that group, and there's discussions and things like that. Okay, so that's one. The other one, sometimes your individual school and college will also have a LinkedIn group, so search for that, because it's just the nature of life. The closer in connection that you are, like if we have Syracuse in common and then we have our home college in common, I feel even more connected to you, right? But at the end of the day, I'll be honest too, I'm an SU alum. I will help any SU student. Orange is orange is orange, right? Okay, but I throw it out there just because it's another way of connecting with people. The other thing would be to join groups that are associated with the industries that you're interested in. So if you want to go into media, join some media-related groups. You're going to learn more about what's going on in the current industry, and then when someone looks at your profile, they're going to see that that's what you're trying to do, that you're actively trying to teach yourself and be engaged in that. My phrase is, if you want to be a professional in an industry, act like you already are. Read what they read, go to the websites they go to, join the groups that they're in, and most of it, there will be ones that are kind of more closed off and truly are for professionals, but many of them are open to people that are interested in learning more. So all you do is just request that to join them. Okay. The same thing goes with the influencers, right? Follow people who are influencers from industries that you're interested in, or who are just cool. Like Richard Branson, I'm always like, oh, he like gives me motivation to like try new crazy things. So whomever it is, like follow those people, because what's going to happen is that's going to change your news feed on LinkedIn. So once again, just making your life easier, instead of you having to go out and search for information about the industry you want to go to, it comes right to you. And this is the sort of stuff where, and you are preparing for an interview or your resume, now you know the buzzwords of your industry, you know what's going on, You ask better questions and you answer questions more effectively because you're engaged, okay? So that's something to think about too. And I'll focus on this in a second, that you can also do that for companies you're interested in as well. So, and obviously there's news, so I follow certain news. Again, that's the kind of stuff that's gonna change things. And then you can kind of follow companies. I mean, how awesome would it be to walk into an interview and be like, hey, I just saw you guys released a new product, or I saw you won that award. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And again, they see that you are committed to that organization, that company, not just that you want a job or you want an internship. You want a job with them. You want an internship with them. And you're so committed to that that you make sure to stay on top of what's going on with them as a company. And I think that brings us to the end of the profile. So, any questions about profiles in general? Yes.
Is there a way to have your profile in 2 different languages, depending on who looks for it?
Oh, that is an excellent question that I do not know the answer to, but we are very lucky to be graced by 2 LinkedIn employees today who are SU alums. They are across the hall, and they may know the answer to that. But I know they were just talking that LinkedIn is they're making emphasis on going global. There are 380 million members of LinkedIn. So if you're not on this thing yet, get on it, because this is where everyone is. And I'll start really quickly to say, this is the one social network where it is completely acceptable to reach out to a stranger and ask for advice about their career. If you do that on Facebook, or you try to follow someone on Twitter, maybe, but now we're getting into a weird, is this personal, is this professional? LinkedIn has cornered the market on professional networking. So that's why it's one of those places you want to be, because it's where everyone is, and it's particularly where recruiters are as well. Yes?
I got here a few minutes late, I don't know if you've already thought of this, but for a student, what do you suggest to emphasize in your summary?
So in your summary, I think the things you want to emphasize are, what are you looking to do? What have you done so far that's related to that, if anything at all? And kind of, as I said at the end, let me know a little bit about your personality. What do you do outside of class? If you play intramural soccer or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? Sometimes that's what somebody connects with, or you're a huge New England Patriots fan, or Arsenal for life, whatever. Sometimes, and excuse me, because this is me being a terrible presenter, that's what's gonna actually be what people talk to you about, not necessarily your internship. And so the same thing goes, Syracuse University, always be prepared for people to ask you about, how's the basketball team going? So if you don't follow basketball, just do yourself a favor and try to check it out, because sometimes that becomes the conversation starter, because that's what people associate with us. And then we go from there, and they get to know you and then engage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I would say about that summary. So it's kind of like a mini cover letter. It's a mini snapshot of, this is what I want to do, here's what I'm about, and here's what I do kind of outside of all of that too. Okay, so some things to show you quickly about why LinkedIn is amazing. You go to connections, you go to find alumni. It pulls your most recent school, so that's where I went to grad school, but let's go undergrad. This is everyone that wrote Syracuse University in their profile that is on LinkedIn. So there are current students in this, but clearly the majority are alumni. And you can search this based on 6 things. Geographic region, the individual company where they work. So just so you can see, if you ever wondered, what companies hire the most Syracuse University alums? Here they are. Of the people that are on LinkedIn, right? This isn't a perfect representation, but it should give you a good idea. And then we can search on industry. You can search on what they studied. I'll warn you, LinkedIn tried to come up with majors that fit every college in America, so they fit no college. You know, every so often, like psychology, cool, that's simple. My students who are information management and technology majors, there's like 6 things that could possibly be them. So you just kind of have to play around with it. You can also look at what they're skilled at, right? Because maybe you want to go into marketing, but really specifically, you're like, I want to do brand strategy, right? Because marketing is huge. You're going to run into a bunch of salespeople. Maybe that's not what you were thinking. So you can limit it looking at the skills. And what happens is if we do this, and we pick an industry like arts and design, we scroll down, and it's going to push all my first connections to the top. So some of these people may not be super relevant, but they want me to know, hey, these are the first connection people that you have. But these are all my friend Heather, who has an awesome job at American Express, by the way. So these are all SU alums. And then the beauty of it is, and why Heather can do that is because she does UX design. I mean, she's an artistic person. She's creative. She gets to get away with that. And she has an awesome job, so she kind of has a little more freedom. You can look at someone's profile and see, okay, that's the job I want. How did they get there? What internships did they have? What was their first job out of college? LinkedIn is the map that can help you see where you can go. Because the truth is, they were in your shoes. There is no reason why you can't do what they did. And it doesn't mean you have to follow that, but it can get overwhelming to be like, oh, you can do whatever you want. This can narrow it down and give you some concrete ideas of ways people have done it before. Okay? So, this I think is a very unique tool that you can use. You can also change things like the attended dates. So like go 4 years back, and now we're not going to typically see students. We'll only see alumni, if that's who you're looking for. And so I always say to students, before you apply to a job, and ideally long before you apply to a job, if you have a company in mind, your first step should be to check to see if we have any SU alumni there. And then when you reach out to them, you customize the LinkedIn request. You never, ever just hit connect. Because then I get a message like, oh, so-and-so wants to add you to their professional network. I don't know you. Like, why would I do that? But if a student reached out to me and said, hey, I see that you're a career counselor. I'm a Syracuse, and then you went to Syracuse University. I'm a current student. I'm thinking about becoming a career counselor. Would you be willing to connect with me and give me some advice? Oh, now I understand you're reaching out to me because we have something in common. Both that we went to the same university and that you're passionate about what I'm passionate about. Now you're not a stranger. I totally understand why you reached out to me and I hit connect. Does that make sense? So you have to craft your own message and talk to them about that. So that's how you do it. That's where you can and the whole idea is that we're not trying to collect as many connections as humanly possible. We're trying to connect with people we genuinely know or genuinely are interested in. And then the idea is that you leverage this digital connection into an actual conversation. You ask that person maybe for 20 minutes of their time. If they're in the city, if they're in LA, offer to talk to them on the phone or Skype or whatever is convenient for them, right? You go into this very humble. I'm just looking for advice. I know you're very busy. I'm free at these times. I'm going to make this as easy as possible for you. So that is where LinkedIn is powerful. Anyone have questions about what I'm talking about? Yes.
So would it be appropriate, so if I have a firm I'm interested in San Francisco,
yes,
and I reach out to them, and then would I ask them, I can't meet with them in person, would
right,
it be appropriate to ask, for advice over Skype?
Yeah, so you can say, I give, like, and you can give options. That's what I tend to say, like, I'm willing to talk to you over the phone or Skype, whatever is easier for you or whatever you prefer, right? You're just making it as easy and as accessible as possible. But yeah, more likely than not, like, let's Skype, we can actually see each other, it's nice. So that is what I would say to do. But yeah, reach out for sure. Okay, so another quick thing I just want to show you, there's another way you can do stuff like this. This is a very powerful little button, the advanced search tool. You can put in things like a title, what all of my students want to do. And then we can put in a school. And again, it's going to push people up, some people who don't make as much sense because they're my connections. But as I scroll through, I'm going to see more and more business analysts. So it's another way to find people. What I love about this is that it automatically tells me who I'm connected to. So it's like, I wouldn't reach out to the person I don't know. I would reach out to the person I do know and say, hey, are you good friends with him? Would you be willing to introduce me? The more that you can have someone introduce you to the person, the better. That's ideal. Think about it yourself. If a stranger asked you for help or a best friend asked you to help a stranger, which stranger do you help? So if you can get someone to make the introduction for you, so if you, and again, we can start inner circle. If you have family and friends who can do that, great. Or if you have a connection who can do that, great. But in a worst case scenario, you reach out yourself, and that is totally fine. But these are the sorts of things that might make it a little bit more likely that you get a response. So that's why I kind of like advanced search. I also like advanced search because you can go even more specific about location and do it by zip code. The greater New York City area includes Westchester County, Bergen County, and Fairfield County. Some of you are like, yeah, I'd rather be in Manhattan. As exciting as Stamford, Connecticut is. So you can really kind of zero in here too. And again, you can search things on multiple fronts. Companies, titles, whatever the case may be. And you don't have to include school. You can just see. Like, for example, if you come across this idea, like someone tells you about a job, you're like, that sounds super cool. What do those people do? Look for it on LinkedIn and look at those people's profiles. So do you see how putting your resume on LinkedIn is step one? There's way more capability here, and that's actually what is cool about LinkedIn. So some other just really quick things that I'll show you. The other thing you can do is if I don't know, I'll just pick, and I want to, so whenever you're like looking at a connection, if you go to relationship, you can make notes. You can remind yourself how you met. You can remind yourself to reach back out to that person, which is huge, right? So you're going to meet maybe a ton of people at the career fair, and you'll thank them right away. But maybe you want to set a reminder to reach back out in like 2 weeks, a month, and send an update about how things are going. Or maybe you had a conversation with a recruiter, you had a conversation with an alum, and you were talking about what was going on in the industry, and you see an article that's relevant to what that conversation was, you share it with them. That's a natural way to keep the conversation going, keep the relationship going. Okay? Or you connected because of your mutual love of the Mets. So when the Mets win or whatever, you reach out to them and you're like, oh, did you see that game? Da, 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 da. That's how you keep the relationship going, right? Oh, it's New York Fashion Week. I don't know what the interest that you have in common is, but as those things happen naturally, you reach back out. And this can help you keep it going. The other thing that you can do too is if we go to connections, the keep in touch, LinkedIn tries to help you do this. It lets you know who has new jobs, who posted an update, whose birthday is it? Like, so you can use this as a way to keep in touch with people that maybe you've lost touch with. So they're really trying to help you. This is their way of saying, this is how relationships are built. Not by only reaching out to people when you need something, but reaching out to people consistently, right? Like, think about it, like, you're trying to build a friendship, in essence. And if, as a friend, if I feel you only reach out to me when you want something, that's not an even relationship. So that's another thing that's helpful. And obviously, there's the job search function. I'm pretty sure you guys know a little bit about that. But the other thing, if we hit this lovely little gear, you can export your LinkedIn connections too. So if you're the type of person that you want to kind of have an Excel sheet and reach out, and when am I going to do this? Or it's going to be helpful to kind of be able to do that. You can do all of those things. And the last thing I'll just kind of touch on, privacy and settings, which it smartly makes you log in again. So just know you control LinkedIn. The same way you control what people see on Facebook and Twitter, you can do here. So if you don't want people to see like your activity broadcast or whatever it might be, and maybe like when you're in this first stage of actively just searching and looking at a ton of people's profiles, and maybe you don't want people to know you're doing that, because you're like, you can select what others see when they viewed your profile, and you can make yourself totally anonymous. Now, when you do that, LinkedIn takes something away from you, right? It's a give and get. So when you do that, then you can't see who's looked at your profile. So I tend to say this can be good when you're first kind of searching and trying to learn what you want to do and all of that. But once you start applying to places, it can be good to know who's looking at your profile. Because if a recruiter or someone from a company that you apply to looks at your LinkedIn profile, that is a very good sign that a human being saw your resume and now is trying to learn a little bit more about you. That's when you're like, so just know you can control those things.
Is that only for LinkedIn?
No, so I know that I have, and that's because I do like a ton of searching, so I just have to do that. But that is for everything. That is, LinkedIn tries very much to be a members-based organization, and they understand that privacy is paramount. So that is something that you can do free. And honestly, I'll tell you right now, you do not need to pay for a paid subscription. For what you're doing, you are not going to hit any of the limits that like a salesperson or a recruiter would hit. But I will let you know, anyone who has that, if you've seen the circle next to someone's name, that means that you can reach out to them and send them an email. I just know Laura has one. Oh, except it's not there now. Oh, LinkedIn is always changing their things. I'm like, maybe it's because I'm a first connection with her, but it used to be that you would see they're a recruiter, they had an open circle, you can email them, you don't have to be connected with them, you can just send them a message. So that's something to be aware of too.
What do you get from the premium LinkedIn that you don't get from the ordinary?
So really quick, the reason that I do this is that at some point, if you use too many advanced searches in 1 month, it starts to limit the amount of results that you're going to see. But it resets on the first of the next month. So to me, because I'm constantly looking for alumni, I'm showing this to students all the time, the average user will not likely hit those limits. So that's why. And trust me, if you go on Upgrade, they will tell you all the fun features because they want you to pay more for it. the LinkedIn folks themselves said, for college students, probably not worth the investment. You can do what you need to do for free. Okay, and then we have another session coming in. So do we have any last minute questions? Do we feel a little bit better? We know what we're gonna do, and we know that there are LinkedIn profile reviews happening today, and that there are professional headshots happening today. You go in the bathroom, get all stuffed up, and have some food. And if you didn't sign in, do that, please. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
I walked in a little bit late. Are you gonna like kind of go over the same thing?
So the next session at the beginning, we'll do the same exact thing.
Okay.
Yep. Just stay for the little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I came in at like summer.
So, yeah, so really, I was just saying that, like, you can change the beginning of your, so I'll show you Keegan, for example. So Keegan works at LinkedIn, so, like, see, he says what he does, but then he's also, like, you can change that. So you can say that you're, like, what's your major? I'm an aspiring mechanical engineer. Just call it out there.
Okay.
So not just, like, I'm a Syracuse University student. That's a little, so you can be creative.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was that you want to customize your URL to just be your name. Okay. So if I go to profile, edit, we can go to edit profile. Stop that. What will happen is, you can go, stop. You can go to this little thing here, and it will see it. So you hit a gear that's next to your URL, and it says your public profile URL. You can customize it so it's just your name and not a million characters.
Yeah.
And that's what and that's literally all I said before.
So it's the gear.
It's like the gear that's next to the URL in your, see, because now it brought me here. This thing. There's a little gear.
Okay.
Or whatever they call that. Okay, I need to go over to the next place if I need to log out. And there we go. Okay.
I just mentioned that there is another session. Is that the same session?
It's pretty, I mean, everyone's might have their same spin on it, but it's the same LinkedIn presentation.
Okay, so it's like been taken by someone else.
Right,
But the
exactly.
same thing that you're
Same basic idea. But this person is from SUHR.
And
So, yeah.
what about the LinkedIn element, or you said the Syracuse element?
Yeah, so they're presenting the same thing at 1 and 2 today. But like, again, it'll just be from their point of view. And then the alum, there are alums and other people right now reviewing profiles as well.
Okay.
Got it?
So the sessions, there's no point in attending it again?
More likely than not, like I said, could someone say something different? Sure, but I would think on average, we're all probably gonna highlight the same things.
Yeah.
Right. So you can just directly reach out and
Yes.
ask,
Because then we have a class. So we
Yeah,
have to see whether we have
it's all based on your availability of when you can come. So basically, I think the message across the board from all the presenters is the same. And if you don't get something, I know that Tracy just said they're posting it on YouTube.
Yeah, I think all of these are being live streamed, so if you wanna watch it later, you can do that too.
Yeah,
Okay?
you're welcome.
I don't, because I have to go do profile review.
Oh. You're so smart.
Hey, how are you? Hi, how are you?
Yoga, yes, all that stuff.
Okay. This is not your water, right?
No.
Okay, this is Meredith. Okay, I'll be right back. She's like, I think take your time. I was like, no, right now, I've just been taking some fitness classes. I don't know whether I'm gonna do like exercise walk or whether I'm gonna do basketball. I haven't decided yet. Yeah. Oh, okay. No. Oh, I need an Yeah. Just take out my picture. More than the window. No. Okay. Okay.
Everything all
So far, so good.
very good.
Don't think we'll have any. So I kept these colored ones just in
Yes.
case we need to print more, but
Okay.
they're all handouts that are on LinkedIn anyways.
Yeah. These are great.
So
These are the best pens. Thank you so much for bringing them.
don't tell anybody that I brought those pens. That's my my recruiting stuff.
Oh, nice.
So when I go to job fairs to
Yeah.
recruit for
Yeah.
employees, that's stuff we give out. I'm like,
Is this a full hour presentation? It's like 45
it's 45
minutes.
minutes.
All right, yeah.
And if at any given time you have to step out
I
the
just have
room,
to be
don't.
back in my office by 1. So
Oh,
I can
yeah.
get a quarter of.
Yeah. And I work here, so if you have questions, you can always email me.
Okay, great. Yeah. Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I did a couple options.
Yeah, how about the 220 report?
Do you want me to introduce you?
Up to you. I'm okay.
Okay,
Go on, so you can. If you have to.
okay. Okay, you introduce yourself.
Okay.
Just because I'm running around.
Yeah. No, and I'm sure.
Good. Do you want me to help hand anything out?
No, I can just
Okay.
tell them,
Yeah, maybe at the end.
and
you
I
could
can,
come
if
up.
they want. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
at the end I'll do it that way. It's
Okay.
easier that way.
Yeah.
Less shuffling of papers and just
Okay.
having grab pens.
Yeah, and then Amy's in the back,
Okay.
and she's swiping people in, so she'll continue to then when the first come in.
Okay.
Maybe they're checking on the air. He's like,
Yeah, he just came in.
yeah, and he came back again, or
He came in. He was on the walkie-talkie
Oh,
talking
okay.
to somebody. Someone
Okay.
in
because he was like, well, I was like, I know you're running around, but
It's warm. in here.
it's warm.
You can feel it when you walk in. It's actually
Yeah.
cooler in the hallway,
Yes.
and here it's the warm.
Yeah, so I feel like it's probably because of all the bodies, like everybody's in here. So hopefully.
I got water. I know there's water in the back.
Okay, and so we might keep the door open, but if it gets too noisy, you can just say, Amy, can you shut the door?
It's fine. I
Okay,
think we'll be good.
You'll be
And my
okay.
voice usually carries.
yeah.
So
Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm excited to do it. It's
It's
have a-
neat to have a partnership with you in each other.
yeah. You know,
So,
I'm looking to get back into peer services.
are you?
So yeah, it's my world, my passion. I love it.
Okay, good. So, any chance I can get to introduce you to like the people in my office would be good then.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Mike was my professor for a time.
Oh, did you do your higher ed?
I
here?
started the program here,
Okay.
and then I left to Stony Brook,
Stony Brook,
finished
right.
there.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know
So,
Kim.
yeah.
Who else did I know?
Kim's now an alumni.
An alumni.
But you
I
should
have high school
come.
position.
Oh, did you?
I did.
You don't.
No? Why? Yeah, but I'm sure they'll have it,
Yeah, potentially. Okay.
potentially. I mean, still, at this
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
how many months? It's left.
Right, like a month or something.
Semester.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
the time it's awful.
Yeah, right?
So,
Well, the other thing is you should be added to our career services network emails.
for sure, yeah,
And then
add
if you
me.
want to come to any of the meetings, they're once a month, and then you could meet all the different career services people around the university.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
If
definitely.
If I forget,
I'll shoot you an email.
shoot me an email and
I
I'll
will.
make sure you're added. So,
Yeah, for
because
sure.
it's helpful to see like what kinds of companies are coming to recruit our students, like, and luckily this listing is not spammy. Like people, you probably will get like 2 to 5 emails a week tops.
And typically, I get all the ones with all the different groups, all the different
Come up
blogs.
front, because we're gonna
So-
try to keep the door open, keep it cool, yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm
Good,
good,
okay.
yeah. I get tons of, and besides all the ones that come through from the
Yeah.
chancellor's office that
Oh,
come
right.
through, so,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I'm used to like knowing which ones, which
Well,
ones not.
and the reason since we're gonna do next to we have a career services at the university, and personally, I think it would be crazy to not increase our numbers in our office.
They have to.
Yeah, because that's how they do it.
I was at Stony Brook, we were 15 for 26,000 students, and we were short.
Wow. And they're like.
I was doing 3 people, a job of 3 people when I was there.
Yeah.
So, but we're good like
So
that.
there'll be opportunities though, like, where you can meet different people.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I
And if
absolutely
there's
love
anything I
it.
can do, let me know.
Yeah, I
So,
appreciate that.
yeah.
I'm just excited to be in front of students and be able to connect. It's, I wish I can get to campus more often. It's so,
Environment there.
it is.
It's
It's
totally.
a glory.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Work like in a building like this.
yeah, no, you're constantly seeing people, you're connecting, you're engaging, you've got that constant
Yeah.
hustle and bustle. It's very, very quiet up there. Very quiet.
They remind you how young you still are, but how old you are. That's good.
I was processing I-9 and steel last week, week before, 97. I said, oh, wow. That never even crossed my mind.
That's how I always read it. My gut gets, I think it's when it's like the profile of incoming clients.
Yeah.
And it's always like, they've never known a world without like security and
I was 11 traveling by myself. So, I mean, you can't even do that now. Yeah. Yeah, it's a completely different.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about 9/11.
Yeah. That's how I always think. Because I was a senior in high school when that happened.
Okay.
So,
I was my first year. I call it fake college because I was pressured to go to school.
Yeah. And you just had a birthday this week.
I did.
Yes. So are you celebrating this weekend or?
I've been celebrating kind of ongoing every day. It's been a little bit different.
Good. That's how birthdays are supposed to be. So.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I was just like, I'm okay. It's just another. I'm going away next month too.
Where are
So
you going?
to Vermont, just kind of get away for the weekend, bed and breakfast, hang out, do a little hiking. Yes, the foliage. Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
I haven't gone away in the fall in a while.
Yeah. Good. That'll be nice. All right. It's 12 now, so maybe
Okay.
wait like 2 to 3 more minutes.
Yeah, I'm totally
Okay.
fine.
Good.
I made a list so I can keep myself on task, and I'm going to be watching the clock because I tend to talk more in some areas than I need to.
Okay.
So I'll be mindful of
Okay.
keeping it
And then I'll
15 minutes.
if it does get too loud, just ask Amy and I'll tell her you went to that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. I'm glad to be here. Thank you. So we're going to get started in a few minutes, but I want to first say, thank you for coming. I know that a lot of people are in classes or kind of trying to make in between their classes. So be mindful that, if you miss this session, you have to leave because you go to class. There are other sessions throughout the day up until 4 p.m. And then across the hall, they're doing their profile reviews. You can have your profile reviewed by any professional that's either a LinkedIn trainer or folks from LinkedIn. So we're just going to give it a few more minutes to see if anybody else wants to walk in. So continue eating, and then I'll go ahead and give myself a formal introduction. Is everybody hot? Warm? Yes? No? Comfortable? Okay. So. It's hot outside.
I feel like it maybe got a little cooler. I don't know.
A little bit. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to be mindful of everyone's time here. And I know that people are waiting to class. If anybody walks in, we'll acknowledge them when they get here. So I'll start out by introducing myself. My name is Jose Miguel Longo. I actually work here at Syracuse University. I work in human resources as a recruitment and employment specialist. So I hire people here at the university, and I work with all the sorts of departments on campus. So I kind of help those departments in finding the best talent possible, whether it's staff, faculty, in any which way. My experience is actually as a career counselor. I spent a good part of 6 years working with students such as yourselves at a variety of institutions. I moved from Long Island to come to Syracuse. I used to work at Stony Brook University. Down there, I worked with seniors and graduate students and juniors to help them get ready for the real world and life after college. I also did an on-campus recruiting program, so I worked with employers.
Sorry, just to be closer, I can't hear you with the
Oh, yeah.
noise.
Hey, Amy? Amy? She can't hear me. Yeah, she can hear me. Thank you. So I also managed an on-campus recruiting program, which helped employers to recruit students on campuses. So they would come to the campus, conduct interviews on campus, recruit students at job fairs, and do the whole entire process rather than students going to the employer's site and getting interviewed that way. So I also am a LinkedIn trainer. I've been doing LinkedIn training for about 3.5 years now. I do a lot of social media. I do a lot of marketing and communications with regards to that. So I'm really excited to be here and talk to you guys about LinkedIn and how to create a great LinkedIn profile. And I have a lot of resources for you guys to take away at the end of the presentation. So I want to start off by showing you a quick video on LinkedIn. I like to show this video because I think it really showcases truly what LinkedIn has to offer and what it could do for you as a student. And I see what this did. And I hope there's sound here, and if there isn't, then we'll just kind of move along. Can we hear that? No. Sound a little bit better. There's speakers in here. Do you know where the sound is?
Say you want to get a job in New York City.
Sorry about that.
Never been there before.
It's short, so I'll start it over.
Start by creating your profile. Give it love because you know you're watching this.
Or attempt to chart.
You want to go from student to rising star. You want to avoid eating the same meal over and over and over again. Good news, you're in the right place. That's right, LinkedIn. It's not just for top executives. It's not just for old people with heavy briefcases. It's for you, and it's the perfect place for you to start your professional story. Say you want to get a job in New York City. never been there before, that's okay because you have LinkedIn on your side. Start by creating your profile. You give it love because you know it's what recruiters are looking for day and night. It's your resume that never sleeps. It's your flashing neon sign that says, hire me, for the love of all that is good in this world, hire me. Then you start making connections. Alumni working in New York? Yes. Recruiters at top companies in New York? Yes. Your mom's best friend? Yes. Start imagining whose shoes you want to walk in. And think, wow, this is a lot of new stuff to consider. Shake yourself out of it and start searching for jobs. Whoa, that's a lot of jobs for students. Time to get down to business. You start to tailor your profile. You start applying. You feel empowered, in control. Like you should be CEO. That gives you an idea. You look up all the CEOs of all the companies you want to work at. You see one of them went to your university. Then it hits you. You see a clear path from campus to career. You feel like you can see the future. You wonder if you're psychic. Should you start a hotline? No, back to plan A. You keep tailoring and connecting and applying, and before you know it, you start getting responses. First a few, then more, then an interview, and then you're hired. And that's when the real learning begins.
So I like to show that video for a couple of reasons, and I'll share with you afterwards. But did anything resonate from that video to you guys when looking at it? A lot happens at once, but was there anything that kind of popped out to you? Nothing? All right, so for me, I'll say that the fact that it says open sign your resume. So, you know, the idea behind LinkedIn is that it's an online profile, but it's your resume that never sleeps, like it says in there. And I like to consider your resume on steroids because you're really adding every single component of whether it's your actual career as a professional, but your college career as well. So if you're a student and you're getting ready to go into the real world, everything you've done from the point you enter college to the time you leave is being documented for you. So, you know, on a traditional resume, it's kind of like a one page, depending on if you're a business student, if you're a teacher, it's a couple of pages, or if you're a graduate student, a PhD, and you're writing different things, it's 3 or 4 pages, if you have a CV. The actual LinkedIn profile is as long as you want it to be. So you really want to be able to create something that someone can get to know you without even meeting you, okay? I think that video also is important because it allows a student to be able to understand how they're going to connect and engage with people. And ultimately, the purpose of it is for you to be able to connect with people who you might be interested in wanting to know or look for an opportunity. How many of you, want a job after you graduate? Right, everybody. So the goal is to be able to make those connections the best way possible. So a lot of things I'm going to share with you is how to make that profile as best as possible and make it shine. So typically, I use my profile as an example because what better example than yourself? So the first thing I always look at is, what does the headline say to you, right? So obviously most people put their job title, but when you're a student, you don't know what to put on there because you may not have a job, right? Unless you have an internship, in which that case you can put that on there. But is your internship really the last job you're gonna have? Do you want every single recruiter or employer to know that that's the internship or job opportunity you're gonna be? So you ultimately want to aspire to something. You want to be creative about what that headline says about you. You don't want to just put student at Syracuse University. You want it to be something creative that really stands out to a recruiter, to a prospective employer, or to someone who you're connected with. So that's really important. So that's one of the first things that I always share with students about their profiles and when they're building that and putting it together is the headline. So that's this part here. Now you could see from my headline, I have multiple things. I have my title now as a recruitment specialist, career and lifestyle coach, social media marketing strategist. So, you can put multiple things on there. So if you want to put that, your major is, let's say computer science, you can put, majoring in computer science, aspire to be whatever you want to be as a computer science major. So be creative in how you showcase that, because that's the first thing someone sees when your name is searched for, or when someone's looking for keywords. And we'll talk about keywords more later on. Does anybody have any questions so far about that? No? All right, so the next thing is the photo. And I know they're doing headshots, is that correct? They're doing headshots here. So it's as an HR professional, you don't want to see someone's photo because sometimes you can misjudge the person. And that's one of those things where it can become tricky. But we live in a society where we're constantly judging. We're judging someone based on their resume without even looking at them regardless, because they may or may not have the skills to be a good fit for that job. So the best thing to do is be as professional as you can be so that you can stand out regardless if someone's judging you. So ultimately, you want your picture to be a professional photo, put on your Sunbay's best, get a suit if you don't have a suit, or just a sports jacket because it's literally from up here, and try and make it clean. I know that they're doing them here. I know a lot of places will do them where you can get your passport picture, get it scanned and uploaded. That's another way of doing it. The point is to not have a selfie, not have a picture with the red Solo cup, or not have a picture where you're hanging over someone's shoulders. So that's really the message that comes with the photo. The next part is the LinkedIn URL. So everyone who has a LinkedIn profile has a LinkedIn URL. And ultimately, you want to take ownership of that. So you could see that here. So if you're in your profile, and if you want to kind of make a shortcut for yourself, you go to Profile Edit. This is the profile view. If I go to Profile Edit view, it looks like this. So it gives me the ability to click on this and change it for what I want it to be. Right now, this is, if you clicked on my URL, this is what it looks like. And when I say take ownership of your URL, make it your own. So mine basically has my name in it. So it's linkedin.com/Jose Miguel Longo. So it's a shortcut for someone to find me. This is what you want to include in your resume. So once you have that great LinkedIn profile, you want to share it, you want to showcase it. Spread it out, share it with everybody you can, but put it on your resume. So on your contact info on your resume, you have your phone number, you have your address, you have your email, and you have your LinkedIn profile. That's the URL you want to give out. So make it your own, make it customized. The most professional thing to do is to use your name, but be mindful if you don't want to use your name, what you actually use on there. So when you're actually creating your profile, it's important to fill in each section. If you notice on the side here, it says that my profile is an all-star profile. So LinkedIn will tell you where you are in each step of your profile as you're creating it and as you're customizing it. The more information you give it, the better it's going to make you shine and the easier it will be for people to connect with you. Now, I mentioned keywords before, right? So one of the things you want to be mindful is understanding your industry. So what I mean by that is understanding what your major is, what type of work there is for your major, and exploring that. So it's called career exploration, in other words. I know that the Career Center has guides that are represented for what class you're in, so by junior, senior, sophomore, but you can also explore your major a little bit deeper. So understanding the language that's behind that. There's a lot of verbiage and vocabulary used in each industry. So in HR, we have tons of acronyms. In my profile, I may not use those acronyms because they're not clear in English, but I want to be able to be mindful of the things that represent me. So I use a lot of things relative to social media, a lot of things relative to marketing, a lot of things to career counseling, coaching. So the language in my descriptions, the language in my summary, the language in my header is relative to that. So if someone did a search based on those criteria, those keywords, they can find me. Does that make sense? Okay. So let me go back to profile. So here it says posts. So you want to share information. How many of you have done special projects so far? Anybody? So those special projects, whether it's a written document or it's a video or a PowerPoint, and it's something of interest to you that you want to share, obviously you shared it with your classmates and colleagues, share it on your LinkedIn. It's so important to be able to be an advocate for yourself, but also to share knowledge. And that's really what LinkedIn is about. In a second, we'll go back to what I call the LinkedIn newsfeed. It's also known as the LinkedIn homepage, where you get news constantly. And it's information that people are sharing that are in your network. So you're seeing what information they're sharing, whether it's a quote from the day, whether it's an article that they read in the news. It's all about sharing information. So if there's knowledge that you have that will help someone else, share it. The other thing that's valuable about that is that that's how you make connections, because someone can see something that you posted that they will then share, and that can return back to someone connecting with you. So information sharing is extremely important on LinkedIn. Yes.
How do you share something without making it look kind of self-aggrandizing? Like I am coming back into the workforce after raising kids, or they're old enough now, and I worked in university public relations, and now I am a administrative specialist in the publications department actually here. But I still want to stay abreast of public relations because that's what I spent 15 years doing, and it's great to the level of like a director at the School of Public Health. And I don't mind being an administrative specialist as long as I'm not, I don't limit myself to that. So I wrote an article for FC Magazine and I want to share it, but there's some sensitivities involved because I don't want to look like I'm too good for what I'm doing.
And that's a great point. And I don't think that this is truly advertising yourself. This is promoting yourself. So, if there's any time, then now is to promote yourself in the best light possible. That's your sensitivity that you want to work out with yourself internally. Yeah. But I think for you to share what you created and what you wrote is important. So, that's
probably the best place to do it. Right?
Absolutely. That's what the platform is for. Okay. So, here I have articles that I've written. Right? I have presentations that I've done and things that I've done for LinkedIn. So it's really about how you want to showcase that, and that's what the platform is for. You're using it to really promote yourself in every which way possible. I don't think that it has anything to do with making yourself seem like you're not good enough for the work that you're doing. I think it's a matter of saying, this is where my passion is. This is something that I did, and it's part of my life, and I appreciate that about what I've done. So you really want to showcase that. Okay. There's a couple ways of doing it where you post it so it's relevant on your profile, or you post it to share. So there's a difference between publishing it or sharing it. Okay. So you can post it so it's on your profile. Obviously, it's being published, or you're posting it to share where it's not being saved onto your profile. Does that make sense? Yeah. So those are a couple of things that I can talk to you more about. Okay. How do you do that?
Right.
Yes.
Is it a good idea to share only the professional content or the content related to your profile, or you can show the creative side of yourself? Like if you are into something, some hobbies or something, and you have some good content to show, is it a good place to show that? Like so that it gives a diversify your personality.
I think that yes and no. You want to be mindful of the content you're sharing and posting because it is a professional platform. So that's when the difference between Facebook and LinkedIn come apart. You have Facebook, which is a social platform that's really social interacting on a non-professional level. You want to be mindful of what you put on Facebook and keep it clean, but at the same time, LinkedIn is for professionals. So it's really how you're going to build your professional brand and how you want people to perceive you and see you. So the information you share on there, yes, you can share something that's your hobby, that you're passionate about, but think about what it is and how it's perceived by others. So it's a lot of thinking behind the information that you're sharing. But using those tools to promote what you have is important. Anybody have any other questions? No? Okay. So the next part in your profile, and these aren't in any particular order, just happens to be how it shows up here while I'm showing it to you. Yes?
So what if you work in a project with a bunch of people? And you want to post it in your LinkedIn, but you wasn't a worker by yourself, and you were one of the contributors. How did you deal with that?
So, and that's a great question. On the first page, so if it's a document, for example, or if it's, let's say, a publication like a PowerPoint, you would want to make sure you include those people's names someplace in there. So whether you're giving, a summary of what it is, I'm trying to think of something that might showcase that. That's what I'm looking to see if I have something on my.
So where those people go, do you have to get permission from them? I guess that's where the sensitivity comes in, because what if they do have LinkedIn or if they don't, and they do want to be You know, it's like it becomes a public document.
Absolutely. I think you want to be mindful of that. You definitely want to make sure you connect with the people who you've worked with to make sure that they're okay with you publishing it and sharing it. I also think about if it's a document that is being published for viewing, then you want to be saying, okay, well, if it's being published, there's no reason not to share it. So yes, ask the people who you've worked with permission to be able to share that information, but at the same time, be mindful of the fact that like if it was created for the purpose of being shared and published, then they wouldn't have an issue with it in the first place.
Well, I guess in my particular case, this would be design work of an architect, so it would be like the design for some building.
So that becomes sensitive.
It's very sensitive.
So you wanna connect with all the people involved and even the architectural firm to make sure that that is published and public information, because that may not be public. So that's different from the context of what you're sharing. Okay. Those are all great questions, guys. So summary. So a summary is really important because that's the second thing they see immediately after your headline. So they'll see your picture, they'll see your name, they'll see your headline and where your location is. And the next thing they see is summary. Now, for you as a student, your summary is going to be really short. It's not going to be super long. But what I encourage people to do in their summary is to start including information that are keywords. And so I have, 10 years of experience in so many different areas that I've just kind of included what I think myself as. So these action words of how I present myself. So I say that I'm a motivated, enthusiastic individual, and I've worked in business, I worked in communications, I've worked in, coaching and whatnot. That's kind of like my summary. But you as a student, what do you aspire to be? It goes back to that headline. Here you're gonna be able to provide more details as to what that means. So on the bottom of my summary though, I have a part that says specialties. So those keywords, this is where you would put those keywords, right? So the things that you would want someone to find when they're searching for people. As a student, you want to get an internship. You want to have an apprenticeship. You want to get that job after you graduate. If recruiters are searching for candidates on LinkedIn, they're typing in keywords because they're not going to know your name. So those keywords are critical to how you're showcasing them on your profile. Here's a space where you can do that. I wouldn't say that should be the only thing on your summary page. You should include content about yourself. Summarize the last 2 years of high school and the first years of college if you don't have that much experience. Or if you've done enough in college where you've had 2 internships, you volunteered, summarize those things. But it's important that you put something there in that field. So the next piece that we talk about is education, which I'm going to scroll all the way down to here. So you want to be able to link your education to your institution. LinkedIn has a great relationship with higher education institutions. They have over 28,000 institutions that are partnered with LinkedIn. And most institutions, well, by now, they should know that LinkedIn is working with them, but they all have a higher education page. So I know that Syracuse University has a higher ed page, but they also have the alumni page. And I'll show you what those two look like here in a little bit. But you want to be able to put your major, list any activities that you've done while you're in school, add your descriptions to some coursework, because sometimes you may only have coursework and not have any work experience. So this information is important to your profile. Now going back to the experience part, obviously mine is a little bit more in depth because I do a lot of work in my area, but I bulleted it. So some people put paragraphs, some people put bullets, some people put sentences. This is where you want to be unique to yourself, but be mindful to be able to make it so that it's easy for someone to read. So I think bullets are easy. When I look at someone's resume, I'm going to look to see what's easier for me to read as a recruiter, making sure it's grasped my attention. Someone will stay on your profile a lot longer than they will stay on your resume because you're looking for stuff, but you want to be able to stand out too. So be mindful of how you list your experience, but you're free to do however you want it, because again, it's an online platform, unlike your resume. Yes.
Should you put the same information on your resume as you do like this experience?
That's a great question. So you necessarily don't have to. I think it should be concise, but you can put more on your LinkedIn profile than you would put on your resume. So on your LinkedIn profile, you're putting everything. I mean, I don't have all this here. Well, maybe I do, but all this information may not be on my resume for the purpose of length. But on my LinkedIn profile, because I don't have a character limit, I include however much I want. And I think there is a character limit, but it takes a long time for you to get to that point. So it really is a space for that.
Don't you think it's too long to put all that information in there? Like, are people actually going to be reading that?
So I think that, and that's a good question, and that's really important too, is I always look at it from the perspective they're going to read as much as they want to before they move along. But I think it's important to showcase and highlight what's important first, so that if they do get bored with reading it, then they can read what's important on the top than it is on the bottom.
So right now, since you have a job with SU, what are you using LinkedIn for? Like, I'm assuming you're not looking for a job.
So I use LinkedIn to recruit because I work as a recruiter.
To recruit students?
Recruit people to work at the university.
Oh, okay.
So I recruit faculty and staff. But I also do it for networking. I also use it to connect with people and stay in touch. I use groups, and I'll talk about groups momentarily. And I use it also to make new connections. So it's not just about, I mean, obviously 80% of it might be the job search piece. But I also want to share information with people. So I was mentioning before that it's a platform where everything is a professional way of sharing stuff. So if I find an article that I think would be interesting to my network or the people that I connect with, which a lot of them are career folks, recruiters, HR, I share that information. And ultimately, you can create great contacts. You never know who you're going to run into or when you might want to look for a job and who you would want to be connected to. So going forward from the experience is skills. So when you're looking at skills, this seems a little bit intimidating at first. And I explained to you that LinkedIn allows you to have, I think it's about 70 or 80 skills that you can list on there, or maybe it's something like that. It's constantly changing. It never used to be this way. But there's endorsements, right? So where you see all these people's little faces is because someone has viewed my profile and they think they know that I've done this or they know that I've done this, so they're endorsing me. So if you've wondered why people do that, it's because they're acknowledging that you have an area of specialization or expertise in that particular skill, and they're saying, yes, this person knows how to do that. So that's what that means. Honestly, I think the only people that can measure that are the people that you work with or your supervisor or yourself. But if they're people that you've worked with and you've spent a lot of time with, then that's a great platform. I don't necessarily pay attention to that whole endorsement piece when I'm recruiting people. I want to see your resume and see what you have to show as far as your experience. So I'm looking at the education, I'm looking at the qualifications, I'm looking at the skills, but not the endorsement piece. And I think recruiters look at it from the same way, because in the end, they're going to connect with who your most recent employer is, or people that you've worked with, or your references. So be mindful of that as well.
What if you get, and I don't know if this happened to you, but sometimes I feel like I get endorsements from people that I barely know.
Absolutely.
Which is really weird. Like, why are you endorsing you don't know?
And that happens all the time. And you know, I will say this. So the reason, and that's why I don't use it as a qualifier to measure someone based on that. I'm looking to see what skills you have listed, but I'm not taking that based on the endorsements. People do endorse you, whether you know them or not, and most of the time is because they're looking for an endorsement in return. So they're thinking that if they endorse you, that you're going to endorse them. And I say, you know, I'll gladly take your endorsement, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to endorse you. So unless exactly, so you're absolutely right. So it holds no validity to that. I mean, for a long time, you can move these around as well. So these are not by all means in any particular order, in the sense that I have switched them around So if I want to showcase that I have, for example, social media, which is a really big strength of mine, but I only have 20 endorsements, I'm only showcasing it on the top because I want people to see that. But people may not see that if it's endorsed in the bottom. Does that make sense? Because down here, I have all these other skills that I have listed. So you can rotate them wherever you want. And the whole endorsement thing, this never used to be that way. This just changed maybe about 2 years ago. And I think it'll change again. It's just a matter of when it gets boring and when they want to do something different. So if you see a change, you're like, well, I just got used to that. What do I do now? So it's interesting. And speaking of references, the one thing you want to do is, connect with the professors who you are actually really close to or have developed a relationship, whether you've been a GA or a TA. You want to get those recommendations and make sure people will endorse you in that way, because that's a positive endorsement. So recommendations are the next step in your profile and making sure that your profile is completed. That's going to be able to provide you more, how should I say, make it look as better as it can be. So, you want to be able to have a profile that's clean, that's full and completed, whether it's just 1 or 5. Recommendations are great. I have 1 and I asked for the recommendation. Did I feel like I needed it? No. But I think it's important that when you share experiences with people and someone really recognizes you for your work and your skill set and your ability and your knowledge, that you should be recognized for that. So don't be scared to ask. Sometimes people who you ask for a recommendation from, they'll ask you to give them their resume, so they can use it as a basis to create and write that recommendation. You can send an invitation to someone to write a recommendation for you right off of your LinkedIn. So if you know that person has a LinkedIn, make sure you do that. So after you've completed your profile, and I want to kind of switch off of the profile thing, I have handouts that go more in depth, but I want to kind of give you an overview of the whole platform itself. So if you've never really used LinkedIn, you'll be able to feel a little bit more comfortable leaving today and understanding how it really works, but not being a full expert, just kind of be able to navigating it. So, let's say we've done our platform, we've done our profile, and you've created everything you need to put in there so you can get to the next step. So now it's time to start networking. So before you really go into networking, you want to learn how to communicate effectively on LinkedIn. And I think what's really important is that when you're going to connect with people, if you're sending an invitation, you want that to be personalized. And I can't stress this enough with not just students, but anybody. So over here, you see this box that has 21. Typically for me, this is at 60 or 70. And I took the time during this week to really reduce this down and look to see who's really connecting with me, but who's also personalizing it. So I'm going through and reviewing people's profiles and looking to see how I may know them. If I worked at another institution, are they genuinely wanting to connect with me? Who are they and where they're coming from? And, depending on what work you do, you may have an extensive group of people wanting to connect with you. I'm a recruiter. I'm going to have tons of people want to connect with me. When I worked in career services, I had every single student wanting to connect with me because I did LinkedIn presentations. So I get it. But the biggest thing that I always said was, make sure you personalize that invitation. And that's so critical to you connecting, whether it's an alum, connecting with someone at a company you want to work with, because that's the first, what's the word I'm looking for? That's the first thing they see about you. That's their initial, presentation of who you are. And so that connection or that invitation is really what's going to stand out. So, I can see here if someone or any of these people who have tried to connect with me, if they sent me a personalized invitation to connect. So I'm basically just looking at the 21 people that send me those invitations and hovering over this little quotation mark thing and seeing if it's personalized. So for the most part, you can see that it's not personalized. And I'll say this so that it's a reminder for you guys. How many of you use LinkedIn on the mobile app? Raise your hands. So LinkedIn on the mobile app is about 6 months behind in software than it is online. And when you're going to send an invitation, it may not let you send an invitation personalized from the mobile platform. So what you want to do in order to personalize that is search for the person's name on the search bar. Who's on LinkedIn and wants to give me their name? What's your name?
Diana.
Diana? Spell that for me. Oh, Jaramillo, okay. Okay, so is this you here or this one here? How about I put in Syracuse? There you are. So I just typed in a keyword because when no, I didn't put anything. I just put Diana Jaramillo. So I spaced everything out. So when I first typed in her name, she wasn't coming up in my network, right? So how her and I are connected, and this is going a little bit more deeper, is by a group. You see how it says group here? We have no association, or at least so far I don't know that. But I was able to find her because I put in Syracuse as a keyword. So if you're searching for someone or something for specifically, this toolbar is super fast. It's amazing how you can search things by keywords. So if I wanted to connect with Diana, I would just search for her, and where it says connect, I'm not going to click it here, because what it does is it automatically sends the invitation and it sends a generic response. I'm going to click on her profile, and when I'm going to do the drop down, I'm going to say and click connect here, and now it allows me to send an invitation to connect. So I'm going to type in my invitation saying, hi Diana, it was great meeting you today at the LinkedIn live event. Looking forward to connecting. It could be as simple as that, or you could say, you know, I hope to connect with you to learn more about your organization. I'm extremely interested in an opportunity that's posted on your website. I would appreciate if we can connect sometime. Here's my number. Very simple, 1 to 2 sentences. Makes a world of difference. So then you send your invitation. I'm just gonna say that we're colleagues and that we work at Syracuse University, and send invitation, and it's done, okay? It's valuable. It shows that you took the time. It also shows that you're wanting to engage. You're not just doing it for numbers. A short, quick story. I had a student that I was giving a presentation to, and he went in on a group of students, and they were his friends, to buy names of people on LinkedIn so that it can send hundreds of invitations to connect with people so they can increase the number of connections they had. And I said, how much did you pay for this? And they, as the group, they spent a lot of money. And I didn't understand why they were doing it. And they all thought, well, we want to get a lot of connections. I said, well, why? Like, well, because that's what you do. I said, but why? And the long and the short of it is that they didn't even understand why they were doing it. So your network is your network. I may have over 1,000 connections, but those are connections of people that I've built through doing presentations, going to conferences, going to professional events, networking face-to-face, all the schools that I've worked at, all the students' lives that I've touched. That's how I've built that network. So it's important for yourself that it's not just about, oh, well, that person goes to my school, I'm gonna accept them. Or you doing it the same way. Just because, you know, there's someone who you think you might wanna meet, really make it personalized. So that's really important when you're doing the connections piece. Now, yes?
So a lot of times, like, you try to connect to me through a school or whatever. But a lot of times you don't know the person and you don't have any connections. So in the options, it says, I don't know this person. But the minute you click that, you can't send the message. Right,
and so you want to be creative. And so somehow being creative is by saying you're friends with the person, because then it'll allow you to do that. Or you can be really creative in saying, who am I connected to that person's connected to? So for example, how many of you here are connected with Tracy from the Career Center? Anybody here connected with Tracy? So let's try you, Diana. I'm gonna look you up again. I'm going to look to see who you're connected with that I might want to get connected with. And there's a logic behind it. And it takes me a minute to get to it. So right here, it shows how Diana and I are connected. So you see how it says in common? Remember how I said the only way we're connected is by a group, right? So here it tells me one company. So that's Syracuse University, because here's where she works, right? 2 languages. She knows Spanish, I know Spanish, she knows Italian, I know Italian. 1 group, that was the commonality, was the group right there. And then 1 location. So it doesn't look like we have anybody that we're connected to, but she may know someone that I want to be connected to. So this is where this becomes this interlinked web where everybody's connected somehow. So you have 1st-degree connections, 2nd-degree connections, and 3rd-degree connections. And then everything else is just, 10 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. It just gets really convoluted and complicated. And I don't even want to go into in depth in this, but I want to kind of give you an understanding of why there are the number 1, number 2, number 3. So number 1 means is that there's only 1 degree of separation. It's just me and her. There's no one connected to that. Number 2 means is that you have a 1 degree connection to that person that you're connected to. And so you're the 2nd degree connection to that other person. So let's just look at who Diana's connected to and see what might come up. So here are the people she's connected to. So she got 463 people. So mostly are all 3rd degree. There's a couple of 2nd degree. So here's someone that's a 2nd degree. Now, for me, when you hover over this person, it tells me who in my network is a 1st degree connection to this person and a 1st degree connection for me. That's how they would be a 2nd degree. Does this make sense? It's really complicated. There's a science behind this. Like, I sat in a presentation with someone who's an evangelist for LinkedIn for a full day, understanding the science behind this data, because it's really interesting information. So Charles Haven is Executive Vice President of Human Resources, and Sue Terrell is my 1st degree connection and is Charles' 1st degree connection. Then you have all the other ones which are 3rd degree. Now, I can send an invitation to connect to a 2nd degree connection, but I have to have someone send an invitation for me to connect with a 3rd degree connection. Now, this may have changed because before you couldn't do that. I think now I could actually send this person a connection. So let me see. I can. Before, you used to have someone send the invitation. Now, in this case, if I wanted to go back to Diana's profile and say, hey, Diana, can you please connect me with Charles? He's a 2nd degree connection. He's a connection of yours. I can send Diana a message and say, can you please introduce me to Charles? I'd really like to connect with him about this, this, and this. She can then send him a message so that he can connect with me, or send me a message directly. But he would have to connect with me in order to send me a message. So you can't send anybody a message until you're connected with them. I know it's tricky. So that's that. I don't want to spend any more time on it. I want to actually go to talk about groups, share a little bit about LinkedIn for students, and the alumni piece.
Sorry, I have a question about that. So before there used to be this introduce me button.
Yes.
Does that not exist anymore?
It does, but there's a long way to get to it. And in the interest of time, I want to kind of avoid that because there was a couple of things else I wanted to share. So if you want, I can connect with you and I can share more information about that with you at a later time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So here's your news feed. This is where you get all your information from people in your network. So people who whether I'm following someone who is an influencer, sometimes you can see that on LinkedIn, which means it's somebody who's either top of their game, or they're a CEO or something of that sort, they're posting information here on LinkedIn, so they're considered an influencer. And I'm trying to find one. No one's coming up now. This is the information that people are posting on my newsfeed. So like, just like you have your newsfeed on Facebook, this is your newsfeed on LinkedIn. So this is where you're getting all your news and information. This is what people are sharing in your network. So remember how I said you want to share information? If I come across a recruiting article, or I come across helpful information for job seekers, or I want to write a blog or something like that, this is where I'm going to share it. And I'm going to share it on here and on my other social platforms. There's two ways of seeing information. LinkedIn will always, by default, give you your top updates, but you have to go and click to recent updates. And this little box right here is where it is. So if you're looking for this and you want to see that information, this is where you can find it. So I'm going to click on recent updates. So here's stories and information, right? You can see that on here. And then you have everything that was recently happening. So literally 1 minute ago, this person shared a job posting. Someone has a new connection that's in my network. So you're getting all this information. This is where you're going to go and share your information. This is where you're going to do most of your communicating, most of your connecting. The other places where you'll do that is in groups. So how many of you are members of groups? A few of you. Good. So groups are going to be the next way to start making those introductions for yourself to connect with people, but it's also a way of having discussions. So when I go to groups, I have about 55 or so groups, 55 groups it says right here, that I'm a member of. And there's probably about 10 to 15 of those that I'm really active in. The reason I stay in those groups is because I like to see the information that's being shared. But you want to be able to create conversation so that people can engage with you and connect with you. That's the way that you're going to start making those connections besides sharing your own information. So let's say, let's see, and these numbers up here are basically any updates that have taken place, if you're wondering what the numbers mean when you're looking at them. I'm looking for Syracuse Alumni Network. So there's 4 updates here. So there's 4 updates and 3 discussions in one job. So we're just going to click on this group as an example. So if this information is useful to you, like there's a whole discussion happening. This was posted a while ago, but obviously the reason it keeps coming up is because people keep commenting on it. So when you have discussions on that creates such a huge impact, this was 4.5 years ago. And this keeps coming up. So that shows the relevancy of a discussion. There's 1,412 comments on it. You yourself can be a person that creates that type of an impact, and it allows you to continue to create some connection. So it's things like, someone sharing an article, someone sharing a blog, and these are all people who are part of the alumni network. So this is just one example of a group. Now, let's say there is an organization or a business that you would like to get to know, or you'd like to get more informational interviewing about, or you want to explore job opportunities. They may have their own group themselves. So you have to do a little bit of research and searching. The other piece is the alumni piece. So when you're getting ready to start searching for a job, the first place you're going to go is where? Indeed. Why would you go to Indeed? Okay. So did you know that Indeed is linked with LinkedIn? Yes. So that's not a wrong answer. I was just asking and wondering why. So one of the first things that comes to mind when I would tell someone how to connect their network and identify opportunities is using your alumni base, because your alumni base is really what's going to allow you to expand your network. Think about how many people came to Syracuse University but are working. So I'm going to change this because I went to grad school at Stony Brook, and that's why this comes up for me, but I also work there. So I'm going to change this to Syracuse University, if it lets me in a second here. Okay. So as a student, when you have your LinkedIn profile, and if you go to where it says connections, find alumni, it's going to show you this page. Okay. Now here it says explore careers of 122,089 plus alumni. So that could be students, faculty, staff, and alumni that are on LinkedIn that are active. It doesn't mean the number of alumni, that just means the number of alumni, students, and faculty that are on LinkedIn, okay? Now, this tool is amazing because you can narrow it down to literally where they work, what skills they have, where they are, and what their major was. So it's a tool that allows you to really consolidate information literally to the T. So someone tell me their major. Okay, so I'm gonna type in, excuse me. Oh. And I'm gonna look for basically the people that graduated, let's say 2000 to 2015. Because that way it narrows it down even more. So now, just by typing in computer science, I was at 9,000. When I changed and I put 2000, it just went down to 6,000. Let's see what happens when I do 2015. Oh, I think it is 6,000. Let me see. It is the 6,000. So now here it tells me where they live, where they work, and what they do. It also tells me what they studied. So computer science is really up at the top, what their skills are, and how you are connected to them. So now, even though all those people are down here, that 6,000 people are down here, let's narrow it down because we were looking for computer science. We'll click on computer science, and now it only shows me the 1,745 people who are alumni that studied computer science and attended Syracuse University between 2000 and 2015. Now, I'm going to go back to where they worked, because let's say I want to work with someone that works at Google or Amazon or Microsoft. Obviously, there's 63 of them that work at Microsoft. So that's the biggest employer that's recruited Syracuse University students from 2000 to 2015 are 63 students. So you do see how this keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. This is the best way to be able to connect with your alumni network, but also to get informational interviewing, find out about opportunities, find out about internships. The reason these people would help you first over anybody else is because you went to school here and they went to school here. That's the most important thing to remember, because a recruiter may accept you as their connection, but they may not necessarily be able to help you to do that informational interviewing that you want to do. Does that make sense? Those informational interviewings are all about the career exploration. So depending on where you are in your college education, so if you're a sophomore, you may be still exploring. If you're a junior, you should be deciding already, but still doing some exploring. And if you're a senior, then you need to figure it out real quickly. So depending on where you are, those things are important. But LinkedIn is a great tool to be able to help you connect to the right people to do that. And I know that we have like less than 5 minutes left, 4 minutes to be exact. I don't want to take up any more everybody's time, but I have these handouts out here. I want you to grab each one of these handouts, and before you grab them, I'll tell you what's here. One is talking about the student profile. The other one is talking about how to communicate effectively, so talking about how to make that introduction, what things to do, what things to follow. The other one's talking about networking, and the other one's talking about using the job search tool. I actually opened up here. If you're a student, LinkedIn has its own website just for students for searching for jobs. Did everybody know that? No? So if you do linkedin.com/studentjobs and you just click on any job type, it will automatically show you what those jobs are. And it works the same way as the job tool in LinkedIn, but this narrows it down to internships and entry-level jobs. That's all it's doing. So let's say we did advertising for an example. Oh, It doesn't know that I'm logged in. I'm gonna go this way, actually. I logged in a different browser, so that's why it looks a little crazy. So it's linkedin.com/studentjobs. And so you would follow the prompts the same way. Let's just do customer service. So the same way the platform shows you when you're on LinkedIn, it shows you the exact same way, except it just narrows it down to internships and entry-level jobs. But it's just for students. So it saves you that headache of having to really go more in depth and just narrows it down. So right here, it shows you entry-level internships and the job function. Okay, but that handout gives you that information as well. So go ahead, come up and grab one of these, and there's pens for you guys to grab as well. So help yourselves to that. Oh, and there's food in the back as well.
And we'll get the next group in.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A lot, I had no idea.
It's a lot of information, a lot to share very quickly.
I'm like freaking it's just not my I feel like I might have some like blood sugar. I might be. Sorry, I don't know why I'm up there. Here.
Maybe got long ago.
Like 2 years ago.
Okay.
But like being here during
You're welcome.
being here during the day, like on a student was very, very weird.
Oh yeah,
Like
there's a
very,
lot
very,
going
very
on.
hot. It's like very hot. Very, very hot.
Is it okay if we just keep these?
Absolutely.
Take your pens though.
Yeah, and I have a checklist that I created for the profile reviews.
Okay, awesome.
And if you want-
Yeah, I'll walk you over there quick. Or actually, just go over there across the hall and see them wearing like a dress and got longer curly hair.
Okay.
Yeah, those are available online too.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly. They were just updated last year or the year before. And I love it because I always get.
Is this from like Linda.com?
Yeah, it's the student site, so it's
Oh,
the
yeah.
one
Is
for
it
the
any
students.
ambassadors?
That's right.
But I like.
Yeah, and the